Imagine sending the largest army you have ever assembled, and force so powerful it seems invincible, and then, in a single day, it's gone. Vanished. This is a story of the battle where Rome, the future master of the world, almost ceased to exist. The year is 216 BC. The Roman Republic is the rising power of Italy, a juggernaut of military might. But standing in its way is one man, Hannibal Barca, with fewer soldiers, a mix of mercenaries from across the Mediterranean, and fighting on enemy soil. He's the underdog, but he has something far more potent than numbers. A brilliant, cunning mind. The confrontation that's about to unfold isn't just another ancient battle. It's a masterclass in military strategy, a lesson so profound that it's still studied in military academies and boardrooms today. This is the story of the Battle of Cannae, where genius outwitted brute force. So, who are the contenders in this epic showdown? On one side, you have the Roman Republic, and they're not holding back. They've marshaled the largest army in their history up to that point. We're talking about an immense force of 80,000 heavy infantry, legions of disciplined, well-armored citizen soldiers, supported by about 6,000 cavalry. They were confident, maybe even arrogant. With numbers like these on their home turf, how could they possibly lose? They believed victory was not just likely, it was inevitable. On the other side, Hannibal's Carthaginian army was a stark contrast. It was a multinational force, a tapestry of different cultures and fighting styles. He had around 50,000 soldiers in total Gauls, with their long swords, Iberians with their deadly falcatas, elite African infantry, and Numidian light cavalry, the best horsemen of their time. It was a smaller, more diverse army, held together by one thing, the sheer brilliance and charisma of their commander. Hannibal knew he couldn't win a head-on slugging match with Rome. He couldn't win with strength. He had to win with his mind. The stage was set on a hot, dusty plain in southern Italy. The Roman commanders, Varro and Paulus, had a plan that was classic Roman doctrine. Simple, direct, and brutal. They would pack their legions into a deep, dense formation, creating a human battering ram. The goal was to punch straight through the Carthaginian center, overwhelm them with sheer mass and pressure, and shatter their lines. It was a strategy that had worked for them countless times before. But this time they were facing Hannibal, and Hannibal was counting on their predictability. In fact, he wanted Rome to attack exactly where he appeared strongest, because it was all part of a deadly, intricate trap. As the battle began, everything seemed to be going according to Rome's plan. The legions surged forward, a tidal wave of steel and shields, crashing into the center of Hannibal's line. To encourage this, Hannibal had placed his weakest troops, the Gauls and Iberians, right in the middle, but pushed them forward in a crescent shape. As the Romans pushed, the Carthaginian center began to give way, bending backward. From the Roman perspective, it looked like a breakthrough was imminent. The shouts of victory were probably already on their lips. They were winning, but they weren't. They were being lured into a kill zone, and then, just as the Roman legions were drawn deep into the sagging center, everything changed. On the flanks, Hannibal's superior Carthaginian cavalry, led by his brother Hasdrubal, smashed into the weaker Roman horsemen. It wasn't even a contest. The Roman cavalry was swept from the field. Having secured the flanks, the Carthaginian cavalry didn't chase the fleeing Romans. Instead, they performed a brilliant and disciplined maneuver, wheeling around to slam into the rear of the now-exposed Roman infantry. At the same time, Hannibal's elite African infantry, which he had held in reserve on the wings of his formation, had not retreated with the center. They stood firm like solid walls. As the Romans pushed past them, these elite troops turned inward, attacking the legions from both sides. The trap was now closed. The largest army Rome had ever fielded was completely surrounded. There was no escape. The legions were packed so tightly they could barely lift their arms to swing their swords. Panic began to set in as they realized their horrifying situation. For the next several hours, what happened on the field of Cannae was no longer a battle. It was a slaughter. Trapped and compressed from all sides, the Roman soldiers were systematically cut down. The killing was methodical, relentless, and horrific. By the end of the day, estimates suggest between 50 and 60,000 Roman soldiers lay dead. The losses were catastrophic. Among the dead were one of the consuls, dozens of senators who had enlisted to fight former consuls, and countless veterans, the very backbone of the Roman state. The ground was so slick with blood and covered with bodies that it was difficult to walk. Roman history, and the future of the Western world, was changed forever on that day. And this brings us to the biggest question of all. After such a devastating, unbelievable victory, why didn't Rome fall? Hannibal stood at the gates of an empire he had brought to its knees. Why didn't he march on the city and end the war? The reasons are complex. Firstly, Hannibal lacked the heavy siege equipment necessary to break down Rome's formidable walls. His army was built for mobile warfare, not for long, grinding sieges. Secondly, he was deep in enemy territory without a secure supply line or hope for significant reinforcements from Carthage. But perhaps the most important reason was the Roman spirit. Despite the unimaginable loss, Rome refused to surrender. They refused to even negotiate. They mourned, they recruited new legions, and they resolved to fight on, no matter the cost. The legacy of the Battle of Cannae echoes through military history. It is the textbook example of a battle of annihilation and the double envelopment, a maneuver that commanders have dreamed of replicating ever since. No army ever wants to find itself in the position Rome was in on that day. Cannae wasn't a victory of numbers or technology. It was a pure victory of strategy, of understanding your enemy's psychology and turning their greatest strength, their massive, disciplined infantry, into their greatest weakness. It proved that a brilliant plan executed with precision can overcome even the most overwhelming odds. If you want to hear more stories like this, about the battles and decisions that shaped our world, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Let us know in the comments which battle you think we should cover next. Thanks for watching.